All right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackburn News, where everything is connected. How y'all doing? Good to see you. We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and on Callin. People kind of coming in. Yeah, it's good to see you all. It's Saturday, first day of a very long weekend. For in the U.S. anyways, 4th of July on Tuesday. And most places, I'm not sure even if Monday might even be a bank holiday. So it's kind of like it's like a 4-day weekend. So, but I will be here most every day, except for maybe 4th of July. I'll probably be here all weekend. Putting together some shows for you because there's always so much to cover. Everybody is saying that it's freaking hot. Okay. I see that everybody's saying it's freaking hot. It is hot. And there's actually finally the regular old summer, Southern California summer heat. There's a heat advisory out. In some places it's going to be between 100 and like 112. So I don't know what I'm not sure what the forecast was here. It was in the 90s. They're saying it's going to be 90 today is the high. And there's also air quality alerts going on. Supposed to be in the 90s today. Pretty much staying just hot through the whole week. So through the whole weekend, they're saying 90s, and I never believe that. Especially during the summertime when they say 90, 95, just tack on 5 or 10 degrees to that, and that's actually what it feels like. Somebody broke my outside thermometer that I could see from here, from my desk. So I looked up to see what my outside thermometer said, and there's no thermometer there. There's one inside of my studio, but I can't see it from here. Anyways. Very warm. So everybody, take necessary precautions. Also wanted to say I have been receiving like Rockfin tips after hours, after I do a show. I was going back, looking through some Rockfin videos yesterday, and I noticed a lot of people were, there were tips there that maybe didn't come up during the show. So thank you for all the people that are, putting in some Rockfin tips after the fact. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I'll try to be a little better about catching those and reading those out. All right. Let's get into it. We're also in the days of ice packs under my computer because it's so freaking hot. My computer does not like anything over 90, and it's surely, touching that inside my studio right now. Pretty much anything over 85, my computer does not like. Yesterday, parts of the U.S. South experienced wet bulb temperatures up to 94 Fahrenheit. At these temperatures, no amount of shade or hydration can save you. Without AC, you die, and this is just the beginning. This is from Nate Bear. Yikes. A large swath of the U.S. South just experienced temperatures that were hot and humid enough to kill a healthy person in the shade. While a large swath of the Northeast U.S. choked under some of the worst air quality in the world. At the same time, Texas is suffocating under a record-breaking heat dome, and this is only the beginning. The worst heat and humidity struck Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee yesterday, Friday, where wet bulb temperatures soared above 90 Fahrenheit. The wet bulb is a measure of heat and humidity. It's a combination of both, right? So it made, 90 degrees, that's not that hot. If it's a particular percentage of humidity, it's hot enough to kill you. It is a literal measure of the reading of a thermometer wrapped in a wet cloth. A wet bulb temperature over 89 Fahrenheit is extremely dangerous to the human body, even if you're sitting in the shade, not moving and drinking water. At these temperatures, your body struggles to cool because the surrounding air is so wet, your sweat can't evaporate. At around 95 Fahrenheit, no amount of shade, lack of movement, or hydration can save you. Your body simply can't lower its temperature. Heat stroke sets in, your organs begin to cook, and death is inevitable. Fire and heat, while deadly, wet bulbs arrived this week in the U.S. South. Texas has been hit with drier, record-breaking heat of up to 117 Fahrenheit. 117, yikes. The signs were here earlier this year when Texas hit 104 in late February, the earliest 104 Fahrenheit in the history of the United States. Again, record-breaking heat, record-breaking heat, record-breaking heat. And there's a lot of people that say, oh, this isn't happening. It's not real. Or they cherry pick. Oh, this has happened before. I think record-breaking means that it hasn't happened before. At the same time, cities in Canada and the U.S. Northeast have choked under some of the worst air quality in the world as record-breaking wildfires in Canada smother massive areas of North America. By early June, normally the start of wildfire season, wildfires had already burnt more boreal forest in Canada than any other year on record. These fires have released 160 million tons of carbon dioxide, almost the same amount as all of Canada's carbon emissions in 2021. You could hardly imagine bigger climatic disasters than these, but we have to, because without radical action to transform economies and end fossil fuel burning, these events will not be outliers. They will become the norm. The world is currently 1.2 C hotter than it was during the pre-industrial age. Actually, I think it's a little warmer than that. That's the extremely conservative. It's been 1.2 for the last 5 years. And no, we're about to hit 1.5. So it can't be 1.2 if we're about to hit 1.5. It can't be 1.2. I know, we can talk about averages and all that kind of stuff. It is not 1.2. We're like 1.4 because we're about to hit 1.5. I wish people would stop saying stuff like this and be real. With most of this increase having come in the last 50 years at a global average temperature increase of 2°C, which we can expect within 20 years. That's real. 1 billion people will experience deadly wet bulb temperatures for more than 10 days a year. Actually, what's real is that 2°C is going to happen sooner than 20 years. And probably more than 1 billion people will experience wet bulb temperatures for more than 10 days a year. All of that's extremely conservative. All of those numbers were extremely bottom of the end of the spectrum conservative. What's more likely or realistic is much sooner, much faster, much hotter. On current trends, this wildfire season in Canada will be nothing exceptional. There's a lot more forest left to burn, many hundreds of millions of acres, and with temperatures continuing to rise, those forests will burn. The U.S. Hold on one second. No. The U.S. is the world's second largest emitter of greenhouse gases and by far the world's largest historical polluter. Canada is currently the world's highest per capita emitter, meaning the average Canadian is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than the average person in any other country on Earth. Yeah, those Canadians deserve it. Or something like that. I mean, I suppose that would be that would be a perfectly okay thing to say. I don't know. I mean, nobody really deserves, I guess, to be a victim of climate destruction. But if you're the one pumping it out, if you know, it might be apt if you were the one that receives the sharp end of the stick first. Excuse me. While the focus in recent weeks has been on North America, in general, the climate crisis hits countries in the global south the hardest. There are countries with the least historical responsibility for the crisis, and in many cases with a much reduced ability to adapt. In India, for example, where extreme heat has killed hundreds of people in recent weeks, only around 25% of households have an air conditioning unit. And boy, oh boy, we got to get them one right away. This is why it's absolutely incumbent upon rich countries who have benefited so much from burning fossil fuels to cut their emissions deeper and faster than the global south and provide finance for countries to adapt. Okay, this is where I'm going to stop reading this. India needs more air conditioning. Do they? We don't. Okay, I'm going to stop reading this. It's fine. They're outlining the problem just fine. But the answer to the climate crisis is not to make sure everybody has air conditioning until the very end. That is, I mean, I know that's, you know, and that might sound mean, you know, to say, well, everybody's going to die if they don't have air conditioning. Well, they're going to die anyways. I'm sorry to tell you that. So, you know, building more air conditioners and destroying the earth some more before we all inevitably, you know, succumb to wet bulb temperatures is not really a great way to go. I'm sorry to tell you that. But that's what we will do. That's what we'll do because AC is a human right, blah, blah, blah. But I'm sorry, that AC will only work as long as we have power. and at some point, it will be so hot that there will be no power, and then that AC won't work. And it won't matter whether you supplied billions of AC units to the people of India. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter whether everybody in the, you know, all the AC units in the U.S. will go out. All the AC units in Europe will go out. All the AC units in South America will go out. They'll all go out. So why don't we all go out without doing more damage and just realize, like, this is, you know, this is the bed that we have made. If we're going to take some adaptive measures, let's do the least destructive adaptive measures. Does that make sense? Let's not give everybody air conditioners and go and geoengineer the skies so that we can survive another 10 years. But that is exactly what we'll do. That's exactly what we're going to do. Anyways, the guy lost me there at the end of that. Nate Bear. Sorry, Nate Bear. wrong answer. A rain hail bomb in Colorado. I know, perfectly normal. That's how Planet Normal goes. This is from the other day. This is in Colorado. This is recent, by the way. June 30th. Yeah, in Colorado, June 30th, this is what it looks like. Yep. Nothing weird here. It's perfectly... All this has happened before. Perfectly normal. Remote lake emissions from the Tibetan Plateau challenge global climate modeling. I'm just, you know, showing you the many, many ways in which, you know, the planet is kind of falling apart. And it's okay, you know, to take responsibility for your little part of the responsibility of it, of the collective responsibility that we should all take. Remote lake emissions from Tibetan Plateau challenge global climate modeling. Qinghai Lake had such high nitric oxide emissions 0.224 tons per hour, that they are comparable to those produced by a 450 megawatt capacity coal-fired power plant. Wow. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, we are entering a situation where the feedback loops are kicking in. And we might be, this is the early stages of like some runaway climate change here. Earth's complex systems interact between atmospheric, terrestrial, hydrological, cryological, biological processes in feedback loops. Understanding their relationships is important for modeling their future impacts, particularly regarding climate change. Anyways, as gases are known to impact climate, with nitrous oxides being considered the third most important greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide and methane. Nitric oxide can be derived from anthropogenic activities such as power plants, vehicles, construction equipment, and much more, but it is also found in lakes. Generally, the nitric oxide in lakes has not been considered a major forcing factor in air quality or climate models compared to human sources, but new research reported in Nature Geoscience focused on remote lakes on the Tibetan Plateau. The intersection of Central, South, and East Asia has challenged this understanding. Anyways. The top 10 lakes emitting nitric oxide coincide with regions experiencing the most urbanization and population growth. Well, gee. There's no way humans are affecting the planet. Oh, okay. Well, this sounds like some pretty strong correlation. The top 10 lakes emitting nitric oxide coincide with regions experiencing the most urbanization and population growth. There's no connection, of course, I'm sure. Anyways, it's attributed to a combination of microbial processes alongside warming and melting of glaciers and permafrost on the plateau. Such processes convert the nitric oxide into nitrogen dioxide in the atmosphere, specifically the tropospheric level, which is what is measured by satellites. And there's anoxic environments in the lakes, right? This is happening because these bodies of water are losing oxygen. This is climate change in action, unfortunately. Extreme heat in Northwest Africa. .5 C. Youch. Breaks the previous national June record by 1.6 C. Good God. Set in 2012. This is in Morocco. Ouch. That's super duper hot. And if you can imagine the humidity there, that's kind of brutal. Okay. This is an interesting story, which I didn't actually have a chance to really read too much of, but this is from Doomer Girl News. The return of human fertilizer. As prices soar, Japan returns to human waste fertilizer. I mean, some people are doing this, as composting their own waste, right? As a measure to mitigate their impact on the planet. It's cheap, recycled, and has centuries of tradition. Shimogo, or fertilizer from a person's bottom, is finding new favor in Japan as Ukraine's war hikes the price of chemical alternatives. As in several parts of the world, the use of night soil to fertilize crops, it's called night soil, I don't know why that's funny, was once common in Japan. However, the advent of sewage systems and treatment facilities, as well as chemical fertilizers, saw it fall out of fashion. Huh. About a decade ago, Japanese treatment facilities wondered if they could revive interest to avoid sewage sludge disposal, a costly and potentially environmentally damaging process. But enthusiasm was limited until Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent the cost of chemical fertilizers soaring. That has been a bonanza for a facility in northern Japan's Tomei, where sales of Shimogo were up, so they're selling it? Were up 160% year on year by March 2023, excuse me. I don't know what year it is. For the first time since the city began producing the fertilizer in 2010, it has sold out. But I think you too can get your own night soil, right? I think there's a lot of it going around. Anyways, the demand is easy to explain, says facility vice president Toshiaki Kato. Our fertilizer is popular because it is cheap and it is helping farmers cut soaring costs, he told AFP. It is also good for the environment. Is that so? Made of a combination of treated sewage sludge from septic tanks and human waste from cesspits, the fertilizer goes for about 160 yen or $1.10 per 15 kilos. That's about a tenth of the price of products made from imported raw materials. Super cheap. Southwestern Japan Saga 2, officials report sales are up 2 to 3 times, and dozens of tour groups from municipalities elsewhere in the country have visited, eager to replicate their program. Shimogo was a key fertilizer in Japan's pre-modern Edo era, said Arata Kobayashi, a fertilizer specialist who has written journal articles on the subject. In the early 18th century, the 1 million residents of Tokyo, then called Edo, produced an estimated 500,000 metric tons of fertilizer a year. Business is booming. It was big business involving gatherers, transporters, and farmers, and all of them benefited from the recycling system. They didn't create a recycling system on purpose. It was the result of everyone pursuing profit. Japan's government has encouraged the revival, citing environmental benefits and concerns about food security since Russia's invasion. All right. The Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries hopes to double animal manure and human waste use by 2030, with a goal of them accounting for 40% of all fertilizer used in Japan. In Miura, outside Tokyo, vacuum trucks carrying human waste arrive one after another at a treatment facility. Water is removed, and then bacteria ferment the remaining solids in huge tanks. Composting. Methane produced during the process is burned to supply the facility's hot water and electricity. Smart. And the final product is a soil-like powder that can be spread on fields. We produce 500 tons of the fertilizer annually. The fertilizer is particularly good for leaf vegetables like cabbage. Harmful materials like heavy metals are removed from processed sewage sludge before arriving. In the United States, there have been recent concerns about the levels of so-called forever chemicals, and I have another article about that, in fertilizer made from sewage. And environmental, and so there's all, microplastics, PFAS, all kinds of things that might be in the sludge. An environmental ministry official said similar concerns had not been reported in Japan, but noted there are no current guidelines for PFAS levels in soil. We're in the process of developing a scientifically reliable way to measure PFAS and studying how to regulate it, he said. All right. What do y'all think? I mean, it is recycling. Something that is a natural byproduct of us being around, but all right. The heat in Western, Northern, and Eastern Africa, the Middle East, and Asia are becoming unbearable. We just talked about Morocco. Huge migration in the coming years as people try to escape the heat and resulting food scarcity. And that will most likely be the answer, rather than giving people 1 billion AC units. I think what most people will probably end up doing anyways. I don't think people are going to sit around going, "Oh, maybe I need an aircon." I think people are going to realize that things are going to become unbearable soon, and power will probably be unreliable, and they'll probably go, maybe it's time to go to somewhere else, where, go higher, go north, go somewhere. All right, we'll take a break real quick. I'm going to take a call, but before I take a call, really excellent direct ways to support the show are paypal.me/Kevin Sandblum, Venmo at Kevin Sandblum, Cash App at Red Llama Music, and buymeacoffee.com/Black Bear News. These are the most preferred ways for, to donate, just because they don't take such a circuitous route to get to me, and they also don't get taxed as much. But thank you all to all the people that support this. There are many, everybody supports this show in all kinds of ways. So thank you guys for supporting. All right. This is Nicholas. What's going on, Nicholas?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right.
I just wanted to comment on the human waste as fertilizer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy that because of the amount of pharmaceutical products people buy and ingest or inject.
Yes. Somebody said that in the YouTube chat too.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to get mRNA fertilizer.
Right? Most likely. Or, whatever else is going around inside of us, which, and then you also have glyphosates and PFAS, and microplastics and microfibers and,
and all the ingredients you can't pronounce on the processed food.
Right. Yeah. Excellent point.
I just wanted to chime in.
Yeah.
And also, air conditioning may be the doom of mankind.
Yeah. It doesn't, I mean, it's unfortunate that, it's probably going to be more of a conversation in the near future, I'm sure. But I don't know how you're going to, we're already seeing, there's record heat in Texas, and, the power is starting to get a little spotty. So it's going to become pretty, I hope people realize how, sooner than later, that's a troubling idea to say, we got to get all these people who are going to suffer, from the heat. We got to get them air conditioning units. I mean, I hope that people realize the folly of that pretty soon.
I think it's one of those, I forget what the curve is called, but the dwindling return on investment, where you get a short term fixed by getting AC, you're getting cooled off, but the long term, you end up killing more people because of the heat.
Right. Due to due to all the damage done making the air conditioning, right, and the emissions, and then the emissions from powering the air conditioning. But the thing is that there won't be, how are you you're gonna give people a billion air conditioners, but how are you gonna power them? If there's if the power is out or the power is intermittent, are you gonna deliver renewable energy sources along with these AC units? And how much can those sources actually power the necessary AC units? So it's just, it's a very, the math on that doesn't add up very well.
They're gonna generate the power by burning Soylent Green.
Exactly. Right.
Right, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking my call.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Cool. And I got a super chat from Basil Peterson. Thank you. Basil Peterson has been watching this show for a long time. Basil Peterson is OG Black Bear News. There are some people that have been watching the show for like more than 5 years, and this has been around. Is that right? Is my math right? My show's been around for about 6 years. So Basil has been watching the show for a very long time, almost from the very beginning. And so glad you're still here, Basil. Basil says spend much of the hot days in my basement. Stays around 60 degrees. That sounds great. Which is one way that people stay cool, right? Without the AC. You have, dugouts, or you have, places that are dug into the earth, or, basements, areas where you can go and it stays cool all day. They're well insulated. That's the move. That is the move. Go check in on the Rockfin people. How you doing? I see y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me on Rockfin, guys. All right, let's carry on. I didn't check in on the coffees, but that's not the coffees. All right. Hold on. Just checking in on all the various donation apps, so I don't want to miss anybody's. Oh, cool. Obsolete Optics. Thank you so much. Obsolete Optics has donated on PayPal. I appreciate you, man. Right on. Very helpful. All y'all are helpful. Anybody who donates to the show, you help it keep it chugging along, and we chug along here. We've been chugging along for, as I said, years. So, cheers, Basil and Obsolete. Thanks, guys. The plan is to keep on chugging along as long as we can do it. All right. Okay. Let's see. Don't know if I want to switch to some other. There are so many things to cover here. By the way, speaking of PFAS, well, we were on the subject of what might be in human fertilizer. It's a good story out of is it The Lever? No, Inside Climate News. About, guess what? The companies that were making these forever chemicals hid it from the public. Who, they knew it was bad. They know it's bad. They know it's bad for you. They know the effects. They've probably done, all their own in-house studies, and then they're like, shoot, we gotta make sure nobody finds this out, because that'll be bad for business, right? Profit over public's health. Study details efforts by makers of forever chemicals to hide their harms. After examining decades of once secret files, researchers find that DuPont and 3M again. 3M has been in this. Who is this guy? This guy looks like he drank a big glass of forever chemicals. Sorry, I know that's probably mean, but he looks, yeah. He doesn't look well. He does not look well. 3M has been in the news a lot lately, and for their toxicity of the things. And one of the things they make is AstroTurf. So if you thinking of installing AstroTurf, stop right where you are. No, it's super highly toxic. It harms you and everything around it, everything that it touches. So if you want to destroy your own health and the health of your, garden or wherever it is you want to lay down AstroTurf, please don't do that. After examining decades of once secret files, researchers find that DuPont and 3M waited at least 20 years before disclosing dangers of PFAS. Dang. Oh no, man! I'm sorry. I thought this guy he actually did. Oh man, now I feel really bad. He actually did suffer. Health. This person that I just showed suffered health issues from PFAS, from Forever Chemicals. Man, I thought he was like a executive for DuPont. Wow. He was born with only one nostril, a keyhole-shaped pupil in his right eye, covered by a deformed lid. His condition was so grave that physicians warned his mother that he might not survive more than a few hours after his birth. Man, that's horrific. He survived, and his early childhood was marked by dozens of surgeries to address the birth defects that his mother, a worker at a DuPont plant in West Virginia, initially struggled to explain, but still. Years after evidence began to emerge that the chemical manufacturer engaged in a cover-up about the dangers of so-called Forever Chemicals, Bucky Bailey, now 42, wondered if the ailments that he and so many other people suffered might have all just been catastrophic. But unmalicious mistake. Then he began reviewing decades of DuPont's own confidential files, which were made public through a raft of court proceedings over the last 20 years. That was a clinching point for me, Bailey said in an interview on Thursday. I was always kind of like, well, maybe they just didn't know. Maybe they were really just saying this is an anomaly. And to see the documents that they were talking about it, they knew about it, and they chose to completely ignore it. Man, that's horrible. He was a victim of Forever Chemicals and their knowledge that these were poisonous. It definitely took the same page from the tobacco industry, where it continues to be all about money, and the oil industry. A recent peer-reviewed study has found that Bailey's comparison is an appropriate one. A group of researchers at the University of California, San Francisco conducted a detailed analysis of hundreds of pages of previously secret documents from DuPont and 3M that outlined the efforts by the companies to hide the risks associated with the group of man-made chemicals commonly known by the acronym PFAS, pronounced PFAS, which stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. PFAS chemicals are so potent and so resistant to decay that they are commonly called forever chemicals. And well, that's if you're using human fertilizer, that is a really great concern, right? That people are walking around with all this stuff in their bodies. And now there's people developing, athletes that played for years on AstroTurf, developing, horrific cancers, and suing 3M made a lot of the AstroTurf that was used in stadiums for decades, and because they have found that the AstroTurf contained really quite toxic chemicals. Anyway, since their creation in the 1940s, they have become so widespread that they are now believed to be in the bloodstream of virtually everyone on the planet. Exposure to forever chemicals, researchers say, can increase the risk of cancer and a range of other health problems. The substances, which are often used in manufacture of nonstick pans, firefighting foam, and water-resistant products, are also believed to be present in most of the world's waterways. So easy to use, I don't even have to wash it. The water just slides right off. I love my new raincoat. I love my new nonstick pans. I mean, people didn't know what they were buying. People didn't know that what they were using was incredibly harmful. And, oh, man, apologies to Bucky Bailey. I thought he was an executive at DuPont and was ripe for some some jabbing, but no, Bucky Bailey is a victim of these forever chemicals. That's man. Anyways, they knew and they covered it up. 3M settlement. Let's see. Officials at 3M who last year said they would stop producing the chemicals by 2025. They're still going though. We're going to stop, real soon. Real soon. Got to figure out another business model. But until then, we'll still make them. Announced Thursday they had reached a $10.3 billion settlement in a series of lawsuits that would require them to remediate PFAS contamination in public water systems. The 3M settlement came weeks after officials at DuPont agreed to pay $1.1 billion to resolve a similar set of lawsuits that they faced over water contaminations. Phew. All right. Yay. One of the many ways we're just hacking away at the planet. I don't even know. There's so many things to talk about, and I've got about 15 minutes left of the show. But you guys want to be really horrified? Here's a nuclear war video that Kim.com posted. A lot of people reposted this. But if you want to know the horrific effects of, we are, well, first of all, let me set this up by, Let me set this up by playing, shoot, where is it? Where is it? Dang it. Oh, this is a testimony, I think, to the UN by Max Blumenthal. And he's talking about the illusion of democracy at the UNSC. So American citizen Gonzalo Lira has spent the last 60 days in a Ukrainian prison for the crime of criticizing the Zelensky regime. Watch Max Blumenthal rip the illusion of Ukrainian democracy to shreds at the UNSC. It's a pretty good video.
Why are we doing this? Why are we attempting nuclear annihilation by flooding Ukraine with advanced weapons and sabotaging negotiations at every turn? We've been told by people like Senator Dick Durbin that Ukraine is literally in a battle for freedom and democracy itself. And therefore, anyone who opposes military aid to Ukraine opposes the very defense of democracy, according to this logic. So where's the democracy in Vladimir Zelensky's decision to ban opposition parties, to criminalize the media outlets of his legitimate political opponents, to jail his top political rival and his deputies, to raid Orthodox churches and jail clergymen? Where is the democracy in the Ukrainian government's imprisonment of Gonzalo Lira, an American citizen, simply for challenging the official narrative of Ukraine's war? And where is the democracy in Zelensky's recent decision to suspend elections in 2024 on the grounds that martial law has been declared? The answer is that Ukrainian democracy is harder to find these days than that country's commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzhny.
Just pointing out some of the the holes in the narrative there. But what the important point he said in there, risking nuclear annihilation. That's what we're risking by not allowing for a peace deal to happen. And didn't the former prime minister of Israel said, he went to go work out a peace deal, and it was blocked. Anyway, so let's watch this video, which is frightening. It's from Kim.com. Sharing a nuclear war video is the most important thing you can do to prevent nuclear war, and thank you. I don't know if it is, but it's certainly the scariness of this should cause you to shake in your boots a little bit.
What would happen if there was a full-scale nuclear war between Russia and the United States? Based on non-classified data, the aftermath might go something like this. When one side launches nuclear missiles, the other side detects them and fires back before impact. U.S. submarine-launched ballistic missiles from west of Norway start striking Russia after about 10 minutes, and Russian ones from north of Canada start hitting the U.S. a few minutes later. The very first strikes are high-altitude EMP attacks, frying electronics and power grids by creating an electromagnetic pulse of tens of thousands of volts per meter. The next strikes target command and control, as well as nuclear launch facilities. Land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles take about half an hour to arrive. Major cities are targeted, both because they contain military facilities and to stymie the enemy's post-war recovery. Some cruise missiles take hours to reach their target. Each impact creates a fireball about as hot as the core of the sun, followed by a radioactive mushroom cloud. These intense explosions vaporize people nearby and cause fires and blindness further away. The fireball expansion then causes a blast wave that damages buildings, crushing nearby ones. The United Kingdom and France have nuclear capabilities and are obliged by NATO's Article 5 to defend the US. So, Russia hits them too. Firestorms engulf many cities, where storm-level winds fan the flames, igniting anything that can burn, melting glass and some metals, and turning asphalt into flammable hot liquid. But the explosions, the electromagnetic pulse, and the radioactivity aren't the worst part. Nuclear winter is, caused by the black carbon smoke from the nuclear firestorms. The Hiroshima atomic bomb caused such a firestorm, but today's hydrogen bombs are much more powerful. A large city like Moscow, with almost 50 times more people, can create much more smoke. And a firestorm sends plumes of black smoke up into the stratosphere, far above any rain clouds that would otherwise wash out the smoke. This black smoke gets heated by sunlight, lofting it like a hot air balloon for up to a decade. High-altitude jet streams are so fast that it takes only a few days for the smoke to spread across much of the northern hemisphere. In the meantime, Earth gets freezing cold, even during the summer, with farmland in Kansas cooling by about 20 degrees centigrade, or 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and other regions cooling almost twice as much. A recent scientific paper estimates that over 5 billion people could starve to death, including around 99% of those in the United States, Europe, Russia, and China. We obviously don't know how many people will survive a nuclear war. But if it's even remotely as bad as scientists think, then it has no winners, merely losers. It's easy.
I think you guys get the idea. That's pretty horrific. What was that movie? It's pretty harsh movie to watch. The one with Viggo Mortensen about nuclear winter. Can't remember the title of it now. Good movie about The Road. Thank you. Obviously was on it. The Road, yeah. Good movie. Children of Men is also an interesting movie too. Very good movie. But that's not the one I was thinking about. Yeah, The Road. Very, good movie and very depressing because it'll show you what living through nuclear winter would probably look like. Finch? Never heard of that one. Finch is another good one about the loss of stratospheric ozone. Okay. Huh. Okay. I think man, what's going on in France is pretty wild. You guys been seeing, I'm sure everybody's been seeing these videos. I mean, it's they're talking about this being like a full-scale revolution. Like there's been a lot of violence and protest in France lately, but I mean, they're saying that this is all the reports are that this is off the charts, even bigger than it's been over the last 6 months or so. And there's people running around with grenade launchers and automatic weapons, and I don't know. Who knows what's really going on? There's a lot of speculation that arms diverted from other war areas are finding their way. I don't know. And I don't know how you can verify that. But it is going down in France. This is not a civil war. We don't know what is. Rioters fired a rocket-propelled grenade at a French police station. And there's so many of these. And there's, they deployed, 40,000 policemen to knock it down. Oh, man, this is a really great video. Maybe I might have to save it for tomorrow. Has anybody seen the video of Derek Jensen talking about the link between queer theory and pedophilia? And okay, I'm not, I don't really like to... This is not a subject that I like to super get deep into, because it's not really whatever. It's something to talk about because it is kind of a thing. It's a subject that people are being confronted with all the time. But it's a very interesting video of Derek Jensen. I may have time to play it today. I may play it tomorrow. I may bring it back tomorrow. But it's Derek Jensen, everybody knows who Derek Jensen is here because he writes, mainly about climate change and what we're doing to the planet. And he's quite, he's a leading figure. He's a leading figure in the climate change movement or the green movement. But it is a very interesting video. Anyways, to keep going on the France thing, France has halted all public transport across the nation beginning later tonight. 40,000 federal and local police have been deployed across the country in hopes to quell the nationwide protests. The thing, I did talk about this a little bit yesterday. The thing that's annoying to me is that all the conservative, anybody on the right is, this is what you get when you have open borders and a bunch of immigrants. And, it's like you guys switched your whole take on, there's been protests and violence and French rioters for the last 6 months. And because they have been anti-Macron and anti-EU or anti-WEF policies, you all have been in support of them. And now this is more of like a George Floyd sparked protest where, a teenager was killed due to police brutality, and it just has ignited the country on a whole different level. And all of a sudden these people are like, this is, these are immigrants and they're giving them like, all right, y'all. I see you. It's like when you like the cause, it's, you're like, yeah, France people, come on. And when you don't like the cause, just what's wrong with you? And you're okay with police brutality too? Like, that's what this is about. You're okay with that? You're fine with that? Like, what side are you on? Like, or pick a side, or what do you stand for? I don't know what you stand for. Well, these people in charge are really like horrible people, but man, do we need some more cops to come out and beat some heads? Like, what do you even stand for? Do you even know what you're talking about? I don't know. Whatever. It's a little frustrating. The takes are a little frustrating on this, but I mean, it's wild in France. It is going off in France. France is falling into utter chaos. Someone just drove into a shopping center. Everybody's living in the store there. There's been another shopping center that was burned down completely. I'm going to have to save the Derek Jensen thing for tomorrow, guys. France is falling into utter chaos. So here's, people driving into a store. I mean, it's just, they're going ham, and it's all over France. Anyways, and supposedly one point that a lot of people are bringing up is that there's very strict gun laws in France, and there seem to be a lot of automatic weapons available, or a lot of and some very larger size weapons like a grenade launcher available. So that is, that does beg the question: where did these things come from? Or do these gun laws even really matter if people can easily procure these weapons? Like, it does beg the question, or a few questions, whether the gun laws matter and where are these things coming from. Hey, William, how you doing? I'm gonna talk to William, you guys, and then I think I'm gonna end the show after we take this call. How's it going, William?
Good, Kev. Well, I got a couple thoughts on this one. First of all, where did we go with this? This is like the Tinder that just set the whole thing on fire. I mean, you're not going to get this rash of protests over just. I mean, let's face it, it's not the first time that a immigrant's been killed by cops. So.
But but that stuff like that has sparked like really huge riots there in France. It's happened before where there was there's quite a few stories I can remember over the last 10 or 15 years of an immigrant being killed and people just going berserk.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of unrest and pressure leading up to that.
Sure.
It's not. This is just a spark. You know what I mean? To
right.
set the whole thing on fire. There's many issues here that are playing. I'm sure if someone were to interview those protesters, a lot of them they're out there because of just overall injustice, abuse of power by the government. And this, not to mention, of course, one has to also wonder when you talk about weapons coming in from, that are illegal. Could this be sort of a what's the right word I'm looking for?
Like a directed protest, or like
yeah, exactly. Like we have to
fueled or funded. I don't know.
Use the eternal boogeyman of the Muslim, immigrant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean maybe. I don't know. I mean it's a weird. It's weird that. I mean, I guess on some levels, like. I actually get the idea of like controlling your borders. Like actually RFK has been coming out, kind of in favor of controlling the border. As a Democrat, that's a rare position. This is a very rare position for a Democrat to talk about, right? I mean, not, okay, let me take that back. That's not true. Because Clinton talked about that. And, Democrats will go out and say like, well, you have to have responsible, immigration going on at the border. But like RFK is kind of more, he's coming out and just saying like, he's calling out the Democrats for their poor border policy, and he's sounding more Republican-ish. But I mean, and I get why he's saying what he's saying, and what he's saying actually makes sense. But I don't know. You're right. It is kind of like a boogeyman. It's a boogeyman thing on the right, where it's like, oh, they're, the immigrants are coming, they're going to overrun us, and here they are, and they're going to, they're taking over. And it's like, I don't know if that's, I'm not sure that's exactly what's happening there, right? I think people are really unhappy.
They've been, I mean, wait, we can unpack 9/11 and get to the root. Not that you and I have time to do it right now, but the Muslims not responsible for that anyway.
Right, right, exactly.
You see,
exactly, and that's one of those. It's just a big thing that they talk about. It's a big deal in Europe, right? Especially in the more northern European countries. It's a big conversation. But I don't. It's like, on some levels, like being, having responsible immigration laws is, I get the point of it, but then some of it also just sounds effing racist. It's just like a bunch of racism.
Yeah.
Just like when the George Floyd protests were going. Yeah, I mean there were. It's interesting. What particular the liberals supported as far as protests go, and then what they don't support on. When it's the other side, they don't like it. When it's their side, it's totally fine, and it's just a bunch of hypocrisy, right? But like, there was a certain amount of like from the right during the George Floyd protests of like just, straight up racism about it, like just, they were just racist about it. They were just like, what are they doing? And the cops need to come in here and shut these people down. And there were people like, there were a few people that watched my show that were like, I hope people run these people over and all this stuff. I was like, wow, dude, like, what if it was your side protesting for their rights or, something that you believed in? Would you entertain the idea of somebody running them over in their truck as a, fair or something? A real, come on, man. Like,
yeah, well, if you take people and you stress them as a society, like for many different ways, be it cost of living increases, lack of employment, lack of sustainable wage, healthcare, everything. And then rather than address those issues, create a boogeyman. And that's exactly what's happening. Let me say, let's not forget what's driving immigration: imperialism.
Right.
I mean, that's from Central America, from the Middle East. It's imperialism that's driving a U.S., a British, French imperialism that's driving the immigration to begin with.
Right.
Not to mention, let's not forget, our immigration laws are set up in a way so that the corporatists could take advantage of the cheap labor. I mean, it's unbelievable. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And then you set up a situation where it's like, well, look how we live. Look at our standard of living. Things are so much better here. Like, why wouldn't people want to come where you are? And so, yeah, you're right on. What you're saying is right on. And then they don't. The government, is not taking care of people the way that they said that they would, or like they did in the past. Right? They keep on cutting back social programs, or they keep, kind of hacking away at people's civil rights and social rights and the social fabric, and then looking for a scapegoat. Oh well,
Exactly.
if these people didn't come over and take your job, it's just like stupid. No, they want people to take your job. Do you get it? They want that. They actually support that. That's not like, that's whatever.
Exactly. No. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And it's not the immigrants' fault. It's not right. It's not somebody immigrating here for a better life. It's not their fault. It's the policymakers. It's the people that encourage it or allow it or don't give you a living wage or don't give you a standard of living that, or whatever. They don't act in appropriate or authentic ways about what it is they're trying to do to help the people of their country, right? And so,
well, exactly. And so what you have a slogan, a It's just like, demonizing the Japanese and then turning them, or, you know what I mean, during the Second World War. And then, now it's the Muslim. It's always the Muslims. The Muslims, it seems eternal, or, because the real issue is no immigrant ever took your job. It was given away by a predatory corporatist, period.
Right.
To take advantage of that cheap labor. Now we have, they say the latest Yale statistics are there's 22 million undocumented workers in this country. People, and the vast majority of them are hardworking, by the way. Anyone who's ever lived
Sure.
in Southern California like me knows that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, ICE knows where they are, the construction industry, the restaurant, the landscape. They know where to find it.
Right.
These American companies that are profiteering off that, and meanwhile they love it because it drives the wage down, because of course these people don't have. I've gotten laid off multiple times for standing up on construction crews when we weren't getting our breaks, and the reason they get away with that in Southern Cal is because they know the market. And let's put it this way: there's so many immigrants coming over. The pipelines, Kevin, the foremen know, they have it all set up. Who knows who has the fake papers? I saw this repeatedly on construction sites.
Sure.
Then you don't get your breaks, or you get cut back here
Right.
and there,
And then unions get weaker. They get busted. They don't have any power. They don't. They're not. They can't.
Yeah,
I mean, and this is all super, obvious, right? Incredibly obvious what's been happening over the last 30, 40, 50 years, right? The gutting
yes,
of that, union, those union protections for people, right?
Mm-hmm. All intentional.
All intentionally, yeah, for sure. And
And
then
then
and
you have
now and then
Trump.
NAFTA, and then all that, shipping all the jobs out overseas. Which is just more exploitation. It's just exploitation. So it's not, and they're exploiting their own exploitation, over and over again, right? By saying like, wow, things are so bad, and it's because people over here, they're letting all the immigrants come in, like they're just, they create the problem. They're exploiting you by creating this problem, and then they exploit the problem again by making you think it's somebody, you got to be mad at somebody, coming in that doesn't deserve to be here, or some bullshit. It's just so stupid. But like people eat this up, and I'm seeing it all over Twitter right now about these riots in France. I was like, dude, what is going on, man? 2 months ago, you guys were like, yeah, go France. I was like, yeah, go people of France. And now you're like, oh, screw these. And I'm like, you guys are just horrific.
Of course, then you have Trump come out. I just saw, I'm not exactly sure when he made it within the last couple of days, talking about if he's president, some of the things that's coming out are so right-wing and fascist now, it's unbelievable.
Wait,
He's
hold on 1 second, William.
Yeah.
People are saying that they can't hear the audio. Is it just from Colin? You guys can't hear Colin, or what? Hello, people. Guys, is the audio on Colin screwed up? I'm seeing some people saying that it is.
I can hear you. I don't know if you.
I mean, you sound fine to me, and I can hear you. And I don't. Sometimes it might be, just wherever somebody's listening to it.
Somewhere, yeah.
I don't know. But all these are great points. Crackle. Oh. Well, you know what, guys? I think I'm going to end the show anyways. It's getting kind of late, and
Can I say one last thing, Kev, real quick?
well, sure.
Okay. One. Remember the Polish Brigade, Trump Towers, all the undocumented workers, hotel industry,
Yeah.
everything. Go from there. And what's he saying now? We're going to ban people from immigrating if they don't love America. All these immigrants, loving it. You got to love the red, white, and blue. My God, the guy's the biggest hypocrite on the planet. Some freaking believable.
Right.
He's just waving the red, white, and blue now. He's a complete actor. I mean, we'll move on from that. But hey, Kev, I didn't recall the last show you did. I didn't see it posted in Colin, just to remind
Okay,
you.
I'll post it. I'll post it. All right. Well, yeah. Why don't we sign off, William? Because I gotta. It's rather than fix the audio, I might as well just like turn this off. So.
Yeah, good talking to you.
All right,
Thank you.
all right, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right, guys. I know the audio is bad, but we'll do this again tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight. And until next time, peace.